So they invited me up to the parking lot to have a beer, and I went on up, and we were standing there. I guess we were kind of sitting on a little wall between the parking lot and the beach itself. So here we are drinking beer and passing a joint, and this police officer walks up. And they all call him by name, Officer O'Malley or something. I don't know what his actual name was. But they were calling him by name and laughing as he was telling us semi-seriously, okay boys, you know, no open containers in the parking lot. And so as he's telling them that, all the kids, and you know, I say kids, I don't think the kids were drinking beer, but the 18-year-olds, at that time I think 18-year-olds could drink beer, 1981 in California, got over on the other side of the wall, over on the beach side. And apparently on that side it didn't matter, or there was no ordinance against open alcohol containers on the beach. And they're still passing the joint. And the officers seemed totally happy, laughing along with them kind of, as they're laughing about just getting over on the other side of the wall, becoming introduced to me, you know, hanging out with them, seeing that I was accepted among them, and I guess maybe just measuring me, looking me over. But I think at that time I looked harmless enough. One of them actually offered the police officer a toke on the joint, and he kind of laughed about it and just shook his head, but made no attempt or no overtures about the marijuana possibly being illegal. And I'm not certain. In 1981, it might have been just like a traffic violation to have just marijuana in your possession. A minor offense that you get like a traffic ticket for possession or something. And so he probably didn't think it was worth trying to bust a bunch of kids on one joint of marijuana. Teenagers, whatnot. And you know, I don't know, it could have busted me on it. I was an adult, semi-adult. Whether that would have been worth it to him or not, I don't know. If maybe it wasn't worth it to him, not a big enough offense to worry about, that he didn't. And he walked away, basically doing his duty to keep us from drinking in the parking lot. But beyond that, mostly kind of just turning his head to anything else, if indeed it was even illegal. It might have been legal, I forget. California was one of those that I believe had decriminalized it. I'm not sure if they had made it completely legal to smoke outside like that, but they openly smoked it in front of him. Actually, one of them actually offered to let him have a toke off the joint, and he laughed with them. And so we hung out for a while, and I think maybe drank a few beers, and don't know what kind of food we got. I may have had $1 or two. But toward the evening, hanging out still with the same group, they built a bonfire out on the beach, and we may have cooked like ears of corn and, I don't know, hot dogs, something like that, in the bonfire. But I'm sure it was simple, whatever it was. And I remember just sort of hanging out together there. And then it was kind of implied that this girl and I would go off and maybe have a romantic encounter of sorts, almost as though they had planned that, kind of set it up. And she was real pretty. I mean, you know, I don't know, early 20s or late teens. Um, Real friendly, real nice. And I remember talking for a while to her. I remember talking about stuff like we wanted to do and all. And I might have talked about art some and my adventure out west and why I was there. Not that I really knew why. But I remember she was talking about having the desire to have a horse ranch. I remember her talking about that, but don't remember a whole lot else that we talked about in general philosophy, and I don't know, maybe I talked about the stars. I learned a great bit about the stars at that point. Having stuff out under the stars so often. So I've been thinking about this, how I'm going to tell this part of it. And I think the gentlemanly thing to do really is not to tell it. And I don't want you guys to be upset with me. Certainly, if there were juicy details to be told, and that was something that I was into doing, I could either tell the tale or make up something or whatever. And out of my own, perhaps, insecurity, if nothing happened, then maybe I could make up that something did happen. But rather than elaborate on that at all, I just feel like, you know, it was a beautiful moment. I remember it as a beautiful moment. She was a real beautiful girl. And if something happened, it happened. And if it didn't, it didn't. And that's nobody's business. But it was really a great day, that whole day, just hanging with those guys and having the bonfire on the beach, even jumping off the pier. What an adventure. My list for this whole series of stories, the Road series, has had a video up near about the 5th or 6th or 7th video in the whole list. Since almost the beginning of me starting it, since probably I made the 6th or 7th video, that showed a bunch of kids jumping off a pier, off the end of a pier. And I think it may have been on the East Coast. It may have been up near New York, like Coney Island or somewhere. I forget where it says it is. But I'll probably link it over on the sidebar, over on that side. And I'll include it in the playlist now, right after this video. Take it out of its early slot and put it back in right after this video so that you can kind of see that to get an appreciation for what it was pretty much like. The video was so choice, so very like my adventure that I would, use it to illustrate that moment. But there you have it. That was one of the highlights, one of the most exciting adventures of the whole trip. There are others. There will be more. Happy traveling. Peace. And I jumped off that pier.